Yeah. Okay, so this is Yale A versus Columbia A. It's the first round of the playoffs. Very exciting. Both teams ready?
Editors won.
What's that?
Editors won.
Editors won. Let's rock and roll.
Let's go.
Toss one. While trying to determine this quantity for green tourmalines, C.J. Carez observed multiple shadow lines instead of the normal number of 2. For 2 minerals, the relative values of this property can be determined by ascertaining the direction of the Beck line in a namesake test. In gemology, a device used to measure this property, developed by B.J. Tully, uses a hemisphere of lead glass to rotate. That is incorrect. -5. Uses a hemisphere of lead glass to rotate a sample. This value can be relatively ascertained by submerging an object into oil or some other liquid and searching for reliefs in the immersion period. Since it is dependent on density, its quantity is usually 2 or greater for resinous minerals. For a uniaxial crystal, this value for one crystal axis is different than it is for the other 2 crystal axes. For 10 points, name this property that is dependent on the polarization of light in a birefringent material and which can be calculated with Snell's law.
Index of refraction.
Correct. Your bonus. In the 5th of these poems, the author writes, I leaf through the works of the ancients with busy hands, while the first of them exhorts, tell me you stones, oh speak you towering places, for 10 points each. Name this cycle of 24 poems dedicated to Christine Vaupuis, which were never published during its author's lifetime due to their eroticism. Answer. It's Roman elegies. This German author wrote the Roman elegies, the second of which repudiates those foolish pages that comprise his novel, The Sorrows of Young Werther. Goethe described the grave of this author as a place where the turtle dove coos and where the crickets sing in delight. This ancient Greek lyric poet is best known for his verses about wine.
He loves wine. Anacreon?
20.
Anacreon is whack.
Toss up 2. A set of 4 of these pieces was posited to be a sonata in disguise by Robert Schumann.
Impromptus. That is my interview.
That will happen. Here's your bonus. The combination drug Zosyn contains one of these drugs called tazobactam for 10 points each. Name these drugs exemplified by clavulanate, which target enzymes which come in extended spectrum types and include TEM1.
So it's preventing beta-lactamases from working. So they're anti-beta-lactamases?
I'll take it. Beta-lactamase inhibitors are used to attack enzymes which destroy the beta-lactam rings found in drugs based off of this antibiotic, which is often given to mothers during labor. Alexander Fleming discovered this antibiotic, which gained widespread use in the 1940s.
Penicillin.
Particularly nasty potential side effect of antibiotics is increased susceptibility to a colitis caused by a bacterium in this genus, whose species name is Difficile. Spore-forming bacterium in this genus can grow in the GI tract of infants and release a paralytic neurotoxin which causes floppy baby syndrome.
Try it.
Clostridium.
30.
Nice.
Excellent. Yeah, right.
Toss up 3. Early in life, this general reportedly made a pledge to be like a rat and gather up others, be like a black crow and gather great flocks. The subject of a monograph by Richard Gabriel, this general deliberately left a gap in a circle of soldiers during one engagement and built a bridge over a deep section of the Sajo River to bait the enemy into marching into a swamp after he had fired off a row of catapults to allow his forces to cross the Sajo. This son of a blacksmith and victor at the Battle of Mohi was first given his epithet Bagatur while serving in the bodyguard of the outlaw Temujin. He often commanded alongside Jebe, his fellow...
Subutai?
That is right.
Nice.
Oh, shit.
Subutai. He's the other.
Here is your bonus. Maurice the Count de Benyovsky gave himself this title after he founded a settlement near Anton Gil Bay. For 10 points each, name this title, whose holders ruled over the 12 sacred hills of Imerina. Holders of this title included 2 rulers named Radama, the second of whom agreed to the Lambert Charter.
Where are we? No idea.
Answer?
Kings of Provence.
Kings of Madagascar. A better-known ruler, the Mad Queen Ranavalona, made people eat the skins of this animal and then throw them up to prove they were loyal. The Herbert Hoover ad machine promised that there would be one of these in every pot and a car in every garage.
Chicken.
Indeed. This term refers to the Malagasy people who displaced the Vazimba in Madagascar in the 14th century. This word came to refer to a social class along with the Andriana and the Undebo, and is used to denote 2 wars by which France turned Madagascar into a colony.
Yeah, I read about this.
Something?
What you got?
Tchaikovsky.
It's the Hova.
Yeah, okay.
You got 10 points.
Yeah. I know.
Toss it 4. This author once recalled seeing a squalid old woman resembling an ape in a sedan that he dubbed a Duchess of Dunghill. He wrote about seeing into a core of eternal fierce destruction in a verse epistle to Joshua Hamilton Reynolds concerning a mysterious tale of which he cannot speak. One of this author's epistles describes a room which caused its occupants to be intoxicated with the light in the atmosphere as the chamber of maiden thought. After viewing Benjamin West's Death on the Pale Horse with Charles Dilke, this poet asserted that William Shakespeare was content with being in uncertainties, mysteries, and doubts without any irritable reaching after facts and reason.
Kids.
Okay.
That's like what negative capability is.
That's right. Here is your bonus. Among the people who claim to have discovered this element are Fred Allison, who proposed to call it Alabamium in honor of his home state, Rajendra Dal Day, who suggested a name of Dakin to honor his home country of Bangladesh, and Walter Minder, who chose the name Helvetium to honor his Swiss heritage. For 10 points each, name this element the rarest naturally occurring element in the Earth's crust.
This is it's being astatine. Astatine.
It is astatine.
Yeah.
The nationalistic craze that fueled the naming controversy of astatine led Friedrich Paneth, the chair of this organization, to formalize the rules for naming of new elements. This organization's gold book is a compendium of chemical terminology.
IUPAC.
Indeed, the credit for the discovery of astatine goes to Dale Carson, Kenneth Mackenzie, and this subatomic physicist, also known for his discovery of technetium and the antiproton.
Antiproton. Penning, maybe. Penning.
What do you got?
Penning.
Emilio Segre. You got 20 points.
Whatever. I got acetine.
All right, toss 5. In a painting created as an homage to Mark Rothko, this figure can be seen staring at the sun over the Mediterranean Sea, but when viewed from 20 meters away, that portrait of this person transforms into a portrait of Abraham Lincoln. This person's name appears in the title of a painting in which groups of 4 Arabs aiming their rifles at each other constitute the structure of the title molecule. The title character of a painting in which a seashell with an egg suspended below it hangs above an arch that has been cut into 6 pieces was modeled on this one-time wife of Paul Eluard. Another artist's nuclear mysticism phase includes a painting depicting this subject as a mythological statue.
Ali's wife.
I guess I have to prompt you.
Gala.
Yes. Yes.
Here is your bonus. Name these Italian artists who depicted the Medici for 10 points each. This artist painted the Medici Madonna for the Medici Chapel, which he designed. His other paintings include Separation of Light from Darkness and The Last Judgment, which can both be found in the Sistine Chapel.
Michelangelo.
This artist, The Confirmation of Franciscan Rule, shows Lorenzo emerging from a staircase with his entourage. This teacher of Michelangelo showed an old man with a rhinophima in his painting, an old man with his grandson. What do you got? No answer. Okay, it's Ghirlandaio. A portrait of John VIII Paleologus as a wise man can be found in this artist's adoration of the Magi in the Palazzo Medici. The Medicis and their tutor Angelo Poliziano appear in his The Tower of Babel. What do you got?
Bruegel.
That's the well-known Benozzo Gozzoli.
We should
You got 10 points.
Yeah, I did.
Toss of 6. A portion of this text describes how governmental entities called quintets, sextets, septets, and nonets were created to prevent certain politicians from introducing legislation. This document was copied by the journalist John Retty during a drinking party and published after Edward Crankshaw met with the editor of The Observer, as told in a biography by William Taubman. This document contains a full reprint of the Declaration of Robert Acre and discusses the phony papers that exposed the Mingrelian nationalist organization. The author of this text argues that the enemy of the people was a concept developed to eliminate the possibility of ideological fight and exposes the details behind Sergei Kirov's murder. It was drafted for the 20th Party Congress and officially titled On the Cult of...
The secret speech.
It's 10 points for you.
I buzzed.
Here's your bonus. Answer the following about ecologically inspired American literature for 10 points each. This author profiled the tidal area's quaking bogs in his book, The Pine Barrens. The nuclear designer Ted Taylor and the environmentalist David Brower are the subject of his books, The Curve of Binding Energy and Encounters with the Archdruid.
Wait, I actually don't know that. It could be Gary, what's his name? Gary Snyder? Yeah, no, it's not Gary Snyder.
What do you got?
Gary Snyder.
It's John McPhee. A line from John Keats inspired the title phrase of this Rachel Carson book, whose ideas led the U.S. government to enforce nationwide ban on DDT in farms. George Hayduke states, "My job is to save the fucking wilderness," in this Edward Abbey novel named for a Luddite-inspired group that is trying to sabotage the Glen Canyon Dam.
Stand. No, that's
No,
not.
no.
The Hooker.
No, the Monkey Wrench game.
20 points.
Good.
Nice.
Toss up next. This equation shares the same dynamics as a circle of equally spaced balls colored black or white, which move in a clockwise direction at the same speed and change color whenever they pass a mark on the circle. That construction is the Kac ring model. Applying time reversal invariance to this equation can be used to show that it is only strictly valid when the integral over velocity space of f times the natural log of f is at a local maximum. The derivation of this equation assumes that the velocities and positions of molecules are...
Good.
Nice.
10 points are yours. Bonus. Name these investigative journalists in American history of 10 points each. This school teacher and muckraker wrote a series in McClure's magazine attacking John D. Rockefeller, which was published in book form in 1904 as the history of the Standard Oil Company.
Charvel.
Yes, perhaps the first journalist to become an internet celebrity, this reporter for the San Jose Mercury News released a series called Dark Alliance, alleging that the CIA caused the American crack cocaine epidemic in Los Angeles. His suicide in 2004 led to a wave of conspiracy theories.
Bell?
It's Gary Webb.
Gary Webb.
This reporter published a story on Project Jennifer and wrote the book The Target is Destroyed about Korean Air Flight 007. He may be better known for interviewing Lieutenant William Calley Jr. in a piece he published in Dispatch News Service.
What the fuck?
Maybe the guy, the documentary.
What do you got?
guy,
No, it's Seymour Hersh.
Right? Yeah, Hirsch. Exposing My Lai.
Yeah.
Callie was My Lai.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
You got 10 points.
Gary Webb. He's great.
Toss up 8. Along with Heining and Klein, this economist wrote several papers using matched employer-employee data to document firm-specific wage premia and endogenous sorting, challenging the human capital paradigm in labor economics. The puzzle named for this man is that labor demand is either perfectly elastic or perfectly inelastic, which is resolved by abandoning the assumption that the labor market is competitive. George Borges disputes this economist's finding about the effect of the Mariel boat lift on wages for low-wage workers in Miami. This is the alphabetically prior of two economists that James Buchanan implied were camp-following whores after they implemented a difference in difference procedure in New Jersey and Pennsylvania by conducting...
Kruger?
No. By conducting an original survey of fast food restaurants. For 10 points, name is Berkeley professor who, along with Alan Kruger, pioneered the new minimum wage research agenda. That's time. It's David Card.
Sorry, man.
That requires
I did tell you that it was the alphabetically prior. It's a bummer. Toss up 9. An innkeeper in this book colludes with some bandits by breaking the bowstring of an escort, but those bandits are unable to steal the silver on a rich merchant's mules when the escort uses his own hair to restring his crossbow. Immediately before a performance of the opera Three Generations' Glory during a wedding in this novel, a rat falls into a bowl of bird's nest soup and scalds the bridegroom. This novel includes a section in which the traveler tells the abbot of Ocean Moon Monastery how he fended off 2 tiger attacks. This 17...
Water margin.
That is incorrect. This 1750 novel parodies Outlaws of the Marsh by having stars that represent the title characters fall from the sky. It opens by describing Wang Mian, a painter who chooses not to become an official even though he's ostensibly one of the title people. Author Jingji Wu critiqued the civil service exam in, for 10 points, what novel named for people who are supposedly learned.
Scholars.
That's right.
What the hell?
That's what that is.
Thank you.
Your bonus. An example of this philosophical concept can be seen in the word aardvark, which has 8 instances of letters, but which uses 5 distinct letters for 10 points each. Identify this semantic distinction first made by an American logician and philosopher, in which a concept and instances of the concept are distinguished.
So it's like the fact that that graphemes and phonemes aren't the same.
No. Okay, it's called the type token distinction. This philosopher made the type token distinction in an article for The Monist and championed the method of science over tenacity and authority in The Fixation of Belief. He coined the term pragmatism.
Yeah.
That's right. The idea that mental events are tokens of generalized mental types, or type physicalism, runs counter to this theory of mind proposed by Jerry Fodor, which argues that one mental state can be an instantiation of any number of physical properties.
Multiple realizability.
It's 20 points.
I don't know tokens is it's like a digital community.
No, that's what it is. Toss up 10. One member of this family forced Edward Allsworth Ross to resign after his speech calling for America to turn its guns on any vessel bringing immigrants to its shores because eugenics advocate Ross believed that it would lead to race suicide. That member of this family actually died of strychnine poisoning at the Mona Hotel in Waikiki, but many claimed her death was covered up by her rival David Starr Jordan. A better-known member of this family joined Collis Huntington, Mark Hopkins, and Charles Crocker in a certain group which hired Theodore Judah for a project. That man owned a horse named Sally Gardner that was photographed by Edward Muybridge. That man, a member of the so-called Big Four, presided over the ceremony at Promontory Point.
Stanford.
Yeah.
That's what Stanford.
Stanford owned a horse and Woodward.
Yeah.
That's a fun fact.
Space guy.
That's a very fun fact.
I was actually surprised that did not elicit any buzzes. But anyway, I thought that was fairly well known. Here's your bonus. Paul Barnes transcribed a suite for piano from this composer's opera Orfeo and premiered this composer's second piano concerto for 10 points each. Name this composer whose other piano music includes Mad Rush, Modern Love Waltz, and 5 pieces called Metamorphosis.
Glass.
It is. In 2014, Glass finished his 20 piano pieces in this genre, which are intended to allow pianists to practice a particular skill. Chopin composed ones nicknamed Black Key and Revolutionary.
Etudes.
Indeed. Vladimir Horowitz frequently performed this Russian composer's etude in D-sharp minor, his opus 8, number 12. Like Chopin, he followed the circle of fifths to progress through the keys of his 24 opus 11 preludes. What do you got?
Scrabble.
That's right.
Yeah.
30 points for you.
I was like, this doesn't sound like
All right. At the half, I have a score of 170 to 75.
Biology and math.
We all set?
How much did they get on bonus 4?
A bonus 4.
They got 10 points on bonus 4.
Wait, our fourth bonus or
Their fourth bonus or bonus number 4?
Bonus number 4.
We got
Bonus
20.
20.
Yeah. Acetine and iodine. Okay, sorry.
So 170 to 170.
Okay, let's get started.
Jesus Christ.
70 to 170.
Yeah.
We all good?
We are good.
Okay. Das 11. According to Rabbi Yochanan, reciting the Shema twice a day satisfies the biblical requirement that Jews perform this action. Rabbi Eliezer compared allowing women to perform this action to flute, which prevented women from performing this action until the Haskalah. The Zohar outlines 4 levels of performing this action, which are commonly referred to by the acronym Pardes. According to the Talmud, this action is the greatest mitzvot, since it contains the potential for all the other mitzvot. Jews traditionally perform this action using the method of Havruta, in which they divide themselves in pairs at a Beit Midrash. Many Haredi Jewish men.
Study the Torah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've done the study before.
That's 10 for you and your bonus. This result is often used to prove Fermat's little theorem for 10 points each. Name this theorem, which states that for a group P, any subgroup P will have an order that divides the order of P. Yeah. The proof of Lagrange's theorem relies on these structures, which are defined as the set of elements consisting of the elements of a subgroup times a single element of the group. For a normal subgroup, the left and right ones are equal. Yep. Since the rational numbers are a normal subgroup of the reals under addition, one can define these non-Lebesgue measurable sets. These sets are defined as a subset of the interval from 0 to 1, such that for all r there exists exactly only one v, such that v minus r is a rational number.
So like Vitaly sets. It's less specific. Vitaly sets?
Yeah.
Nice.
30 points for you. Okay. Toss up 12. This author's viewing of the frescoes of Luca Signorelli led him to examine the apocalyptic nature of Vladimir Solovyov's writing in his essay Science Fiction and the Coming of Antichrist. In another essay, this author examined the philosopher Lev Shestov's purity of despair. This man, who examined modes of eccentric vision in Emperor of the Earth, wrote a book that examines a writer's novel about the dictator Murti Bing, who gives...
Me whoosh!
Good. Which essay is that?
That's just Captive Mind.
Oh,
that's a good opening of Captive Mind.
Your bonus. In his Fizal, or Faisal perhaps, a book which is partly named for this concept, the Andalusian scholar Ibn Hazm states that this concept is occult, not literal, esoteric, not literal, and secret, not public. For 10 points each, give this English word which describes the act of promoting doctrines that contradict orthodoxy. People who practiced it in another tradition were often burned at the stake. This term, which refers to innovation in religious matters, is often used as a synonym for heresy, since a hadith states, every novelty is an innovation, every innovation is an error. What you got?
Bitra.
Bida. This other Arabic word describes people who held doctrines that contradicted Orthodox Islam. This term, unlike kafir and munafiq, also refers to people who tried to hide their heresy by passing themselves as a Muslim. That is incorrect. It's zindiq.
Wow.
You receive 10 points. That was pretty brutal.
At least I had to go.
Sub 13. A non-Sonny Rollins album titled For the Madness of This Instrument features Nick Brignola and Pepper Adams. The Mingus Big Band's recording of Monin opens with a solo for this instrument played by Ronnie Kuber. Another player of this instrument composed Youngblood and Walking Shoes for the Stan Kenton Big Band and arranged 6 tracks, including Jeru, for the album Birth of the Cool. This instrument plays the melody on Duke Ellington's original recordings of Frustration and Sophisticated Lady. Harry Carney and Jerry Mulligan played this E-flat
Sax.
prompt.
We think tenor of sax.
Incorrect.
Shit. Jerry, I swore
And Jerry Mulligan played this E-flat tuned instrument which sits in front of the 4th trombone and to the right of the 4 higher pitched instruments in the traditional jazz big band setup. A small loop is located in the top and neck of, for 10 points, what woodwind instrument which is lower in pitch than the tenor sax?
Bass sax.
No, it's the baritone
No,
sax.
baritone. It's called the baritone
Baritone
sax.
sax.
Shit.
Okay.
Sorry.
Toss of 14. For a small spherical UME, this quantity attains a steady state value. This quantity is found on the y-axis of the so-called duck-shaped curve that arises in a certain technique. This quantity is proportional to the 1/2 power of the angular velocity of an RDE according to the Levitch equation. The fact that this quantity is directly proportional to concentration for diffusion-limited reactions is the basis behind the linear scan form of a certain technique. The 2 main modes used in scanning tunneling microscopy are constant height mode and constant this quantity mode. Quantum fluctuations in this quantity cause shot noise. Detectors used in spectral
Correct. Good.
Nice.
Get 10 points. This critic's works include a volume of essays that take a sociological approach to analyzing modernist classics, Signs Taken for Wonders, for 10 points each. Name this author known for his quantitative approach to literary history, such as charting the popularity of British genres or mapping a novel's events. That approach appears in his book, Graphs, Maps, Trees.
This isn't the start of Dead Poet Society.
This was one of my favorite answers in this tournament.
Ian Watt.
No.
Franco Moretti.
It is Franco Moretti. In the trees section of Graphs, Maps, Trees, Moretti maps the usage of clues in detective stories to show that competitors to this author of A Scandal in Bohemia use clues much less effectively as a plot device than he did. In Atlas of the European Novel, Moretti shows that the suspicion of foreign forms and the closeness of Germany gave rise to this genre of fiction, exemplified by The Battle of Dorking and The Riddle of the Sands.
Maybe like Explorer.
Yeah.
What do you got?
Exploration novel, like.
No, this is called invasion literature.
Yo. Wow. Is that actually, is
Too
am
hard
I right
words.
about Dead Poet Society?
Franco Moretti? Franco Moretti's academic work postdates the appearance of Dead Poet Society, I believe.
I don't know anything about that, but he's pretty cool.
There's like
Anyway,
a
toss
chart.
15. An anecdote about this man claims he freed a house servant dressed in the costume of Dionysus during a choir because that servant was applauded as a god. After winning a battle at Corinth, this general unwittingly failed to bury 2 dead men, so he returned to the battlefield, giving up his right to erect a victory trophy. Together with a younger colleague, he secured the ostracism of Hyperbolus. During his best-known battle, he requested a relief force under Demosthenes and Eurymedon, but nonetheless his commander Lamachus was slain, and he was captured by Gylippus, who promised to spare his life but failed to do so. This man gave his name to an agreement that ended the Archidamian War, which he negotiated after the Battle of Amphipoli.
Nicias.
You get 10. Your bonus. For free space, this 2x2 matrix has the distance traveled in the top right corner and ones on the main diagonal. For 10 points each, name these matrices which are used to describe the influence of optical elements acting on paraxial rays. No, these are called ABCD matrices or transfer matrices.
Sorry, ABCD.
That's what I have here. ABCD matrices can be used to show how optical elements modify the complex Q parameters of this idealized type of beam, commonly used to describe lasers. It is named for the shape of its transverse profile. Yeah. The C parameter in the ABCD matrix for a mirror equals -2 over this quantity. For a spherical mirror, this quantity equals twice the focal length, and the focal length is expressed in terms of 2 values of this quantity in the lens maker's formula. That is correct for 20 points. At the 3/4 mark, the score stands at 170-180. Okay? 16. An aphorism states that this person's ideas straightaway become manias since he is tyrannized by them, and that this man's violent love of repetition causes him to bore us with his raptures. This man is attacked as being thoroughly feminini generous in a work that bizarrely calls him the Cagliostro of modernity. This man, who is described as the most triumphant creature alive, became a cranky and desperate decadent when he suddenly fell helpless and broken on his knees before the Christian cross, according to an essay titled The Case of This Thinker. A dithyramb attacking this man called On the Poverty of the Richest ends a philosophical tract about him, whose influence on a certain philosopher is repudiated in the section An Attempt at Self-Criticism. One of the untimely meditations discusses, for 10 points, Friedrich Nietzsche's relationship to what...
Yeah. Yes, that's right.
You gotta speak up, though, because I can barely hear you. All right, your bonus. In the Shamanic Odyssey, Robert Tyndall argues that Circe should be identified with this Homeric title since she has a deep dwelling in the wild for 10 points each. Give this Greek title used by Homer, which translates as Mistress of the Animals.
Oh, I don't know this.
What would you say?
What do you got? Sorry, it's Potnia Theron. It is thought that Homer used the phrase Potnia Theron to refer to this goddess of the hunt, the sister of Apollo.
Artemis.
Yep. The Potnia Theron aspect of Artemis is thought to have been a synchronization of Artemis with Britomarchus, a goddess of this civilization. This civilization's mythology includes an unnamed snake goddess.
Oh, no. The Pelagians?
What do you got?
Pelagians?
Minoan.
Yeah, Cretan people. They had snakes.
All right, 10 on the bonus. 190, 180. 17. This letter denotes a statistical factor used to evaluate the usefulness of a high-throughput screening assay. Individuals with copies of the M and S alleles in the SERPINA1 gene produce more alpha-1 antitrypsin than individuals with the deleterious allele denoted by this letter. This letter denotes the increase in temperature required to give a 90% reduction in time required to kill 90% of the microorganisms in the sample. The contractile ring that forms in bacterial cell division is named for this letter. A structure denoted by this letter contains an alternating sugar pucker and alternating anti and syn conformations of adjacent nucleotides, producing a zigzagging left-handed double helix. The flow of electrons through photosystems 1 and 2 is described by a scheme named for this letter. Yeah.
Nice.
Your bonus. An autobiography title for the wonderful adventures of this woman's life in many lands was published in 1857 for 10 points each. Name this mixed-race Jamaican nurse who set up the British Hotel with Thomas Day to sell supplies and medicine to British soldiers in the Crimean War.
Oh, no.
No, Mary. Oh my god, she gets yelled at by Nightingale.
Bring it.
Mary.
All right, no. It's Mary Grant or Mary Seacole. The British Hotel was established near this city, the site of a battle where Lord Cardigan infamously misinterpreted the orders of Lord Raglan. Yeah. At around the same time, this man organized ramshackle hospitals using the slogan, All Our Brothers. His book, A Memory of Solferino, recounts his founding of the Red Cross.
Just read this. It's
French Swiss guy.
yeah.
What you got?
Cassetti.
Henri Dunant.
I just read him.
190, 200.
Next time.
Toss up. This character claims that he will have one hand over his scrotum as he defends a saloon in West Berlin where the bar stools are 5 feet high, while his other free hand will be used to battle to the death. At the beginning of a play, this character is unable to identify a Bette Davis film about after another character states, "What a dump." This character was unable to publish his memory book, a novel about a boy who accidentally killed both his mother with a shotgun and his father in a car accident. Another character tells a story describing how this character fell into a huckleberry bush after she punched him squarely in the jaw. During that story, this character pulls out a short-barreled shotgun and fires a yellow Chinese parasol out of it. He tells a story about Mousy to mock another character's hysterical pregnancy during a...
George.
That's right.
From
Nice.
Your bonus. In an essay called On the Battlefield of This Concept, Noi Sawaragi argues that it emerges from a double amnesia of two kinds of violence, aggression against Asia and the US's atomic bombs, for 10 points each. Name this concept, which another theorist stated is why the Japanese find realism in the movements of a three-dimensional polygon. That theorist argues that anime trains the American eye to appreciate Japanese aesthetics through this concept.
Maybe it's the uncanny.
Sure.
Sounds like it'd be uncanny.
It's called superflat.
Oh no!
The theory of superflat was developed by this Japanese artist of the disquieting gold-leafed cover sculpture, The Birth Cry of a Universe, common motifs in... Yeah. For 13 years, Takashi Murakami collaborated with this fashion house, producing many handbags that feature the LV monograph on it.
Louis Vuitton.
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh, LV monograph.
Nice.
You receive 20 points. All right, 190, 230, with 2 tosses remaining. Shut up. In a romance, this man ventures to an island where he meets a dwarf and a son of a dwarf who has turned into the giant without a name since he was suckled by a magical unicorn. This man journeys to the amorous city on Pentecost in a humorous satire narrated by his talking magical papago, which leads him to be called the Knight of the Parrot. In Clige, the Greek prince Alexander falls in love with this knight's niece Sora d'Amours and helps him retake Castle Windsor from a traitorous lord. In another romance, this character has a dream in which Gawain tells him to wait 30 days before fighting an usurper. Sir Bedivere twice ignores this warrior's deathbed request to rid him of a certain object. This man is mortally wounded at Camland.
Oh shit!
What? Arthur?
10 points.
So Bedivere gets rid of the sword.
I know that.
Yeah.
Your bonus. This concept is exemplified by the Corey-Seebach reaction, in which a dithiene is reacted with N-butyllithium and a carbonyl, causing a formation of a carbon-carbon bond between an acyl cation and a masked acyl anion for 10 points each. Name this concept from organic chemistry, in which a normally electrophilic functional group is made nucleophilic, or vice versa. What do you got?
Induction.
It's called Umpolung. A classic example of Umpolung reactivity is one of these reactions in which a benzoin is synthesized using cyanide and 2 molecules of benzaldehyde. Another of these reactions requires that the reactant have 2 alpha hydrogens, since the product is stabilized by deprotonation via an alkoxide base.
This Canizaro reaction.
What do you got?
Canizaro.
Condensation reactions. In the Claisen condensation, 2 of these compounds react together in the presence of an alkoxide base. They can be formed by the condensation of an alcohol and a carboxylic acid. Esther gets you 10 points. The current score is 210 to 230 going into the last toss-up. A legendary American practitioner in this industry was Jonathan Bourne. A group of people involved in this activity slaughtered all but 2 members of the local Gunditjmara people at a settlement of Portland during an incident called the Convincing Ground Massacre in Australia. During the 1950s and 60s, this industry was the primary concern of a company named for Christian Salveson. When a local merchant, Konstantino Davidoff, tried to remove that company's property as part of Project Alpha, he unwittingly sparked a conflict in South Georgia, now known as the War of the Falkland Islands. In an incident called the Disaster of 1871 was a severe setback to this industry. The city that lit the world became the motto for the town of New Bedford when it became a base for...
Really?
10.
Moby Dick!
Oh my god, Aiden, thank you.
All right, here's your bonus. Together with Baldwin V of Flanders, this woman served as regent for her son, the Capetian king Philip I, for 10 points each. Name this Ruthenian queen of France from 1051 to 1060, the second wife of Henry I and founder of the Royal Abbey of St. Vincent and Senlis. She was the daughter of Yaroslav the Wise.
Say it.
Eudoxia?
Anne of Kiev. Another of Anne's sons was Hugh of Vermandois, whose vision of a lunar eclipse prompted him to join the First Crusade after Pope Urban II delivered a speech at this church council in 1095. Yes? Meanwhile, Philip I of France was embroiled in a feud with this Bishop of Chartres, a jurist and saint who was imprisoned after criticizing Philip for repudiating his wife Bertha of Holland.
Martin.
What do you got?
Martin.
Oh, it's Saint Ivo of Chartres. All right, the game is tied, which
Wanted to win on
takes us to this tiebreaker. I know you're all very excited.
One toss-up tiebreaker?
One toss-up tiebreaker.
Unless no one gets it.
I've done that stupid.
Toss-up.
Keep going.
Let's just.
Toss-up. The final. Karl von... Get out! Karl von Stout unusually defined the set of these objects as being the point set of all absolute points of a polarity. In projective geometry, a transversal that intersects one of these objects that circumscribes a quadrangle will have 3 pairs of points that form an involution by Desargues' theorem. Another theorem in projective geometry states that if the 6 points that define a hexagon lie in one of these objects, the points of intersection on the opposite sides will lie along the Pascal line. In a treatise named for these objects, which introduced the infinity symbol, John Wallis proved that these entities correspond exactly to the set of non-degenerate degenerate curves of degree 2. These objects, which can be imagined as quadrics of one dimension, are formed 2, 10.
What a year. What a year.
I don't think I need to read you the bonus, so I won't.
Wait.
Ben,
What do you do?
I come bearing gifts. More gifts, right? Good luck.
Charlie.
Nice game, everybody.
Grad school?
Question mark?
Question mark.
Teaching something?
Question mark?
Oh. Lily Lou Crosset?
Again, Minnesota.
Frowny face?
What does that mean?
We want this.
Okay.
Finally, the one pure math. Yeah. It's so fucking
That's called Limo.
Yeah, that was good.
Okay, so I was canvassing out in Nashua for Bernie Sanders, and this guy's like, you know, I was just reading the thing about the pills of nerdy things. And I was like, that's what he was. And he's like, you are so smart.
Nice.
You, Isaac, just you.
And then did he vote for Bernie Sanders?
Which one were we in now?
1339.
Thanks. Oh, wow, top practice the before?
It's 30,
That's not going to
30, and 50 is.
Good luck, guys.